Since the financial crisis of last year, trying to take off some age here, of 2008, the markets have been trading, all the markets back and forth on central bank fundamentals. And by fundamentals, I really don't mean much in interest rates anymore because we've moved well beyond that. They're trading on what central bank actions will be, primarily the amount of liquidity being provided, and the amount of, you might call it, existential fear in the markets for all sorts of things. But the basic one would be the collapse of the world economy. This is not going to happen, of course, but it could. And that makes people defensive in their choices. So as that approaches, meaning the world economy starts, or any particular country, starts to look much weaker, that reaction flows into the markets. We have the safe haven effect. We have all of this effect is spread out differently through all different trading commodities, trading markets. The commodities, the ones I'm going to look at today particularly are the commodities, oil as an example, currencies, which have a tendency to all trade the same on this, and treasuries. I have two dates on these charts. 726 was the famous whatever it takes quote from Mario Draghi. 913, as I mentioned, was the FOMC. It's obvious from these charts. The top one is the euro, and the bottom one is WTI. That's West Texas Intermediate. That is I think it's the largest volume traded oil type. There are lots of different oil types and lots of different oil settlements. You know, when you listen to the market, you tend to think, oh, they're trading oil. There are lots of different oils. The two ones that everyone is familiar with are Brent, which is traded, it's traded on all exchanges, but it comes from the North Sea, and West Texas Intermediate, which doesn't necessarily come from the United States, but is priced through the center in Cushing, Oklahoma, I believe. The difference in the prices, there's generally been about a 20% premium for Brent. It has to do with the distribution variables and some of the restrictions and constrictions around getting oil in and out of the Cushing terminal, because that's where people actually take delivery. So you can see from these charts, more so in the euro, of course, as you would expect, and we'll look at some of the other currencies. They all essentially mirror this. The big move, the big change, the big item, the big central bank notion was the European Central Bank's promise to defend the euro. That is the reversal in all the currencies. Whichever currency you look at, let's take a look at some of the others. Now, the yen has a less dramatic move, and there's a very good reason for that, and I'll show you exactly what it is. And, of course, it's the euro-yen. The yen has essentially since the financial crisis had no independent trading life. I exaggerate a little bit, but not a great deal. The euro-yen and the euro move, and the yen just sort of sits there. Again, take a look at these charts. I actually put up a brief note about this a couple of days ago. Take a look at the yen. We've gone from here down to here and back. We haven't moved anywhere. If you look at it, look at this level, 78.28, and that's just about where we were 2 months ago. A little more, 2.5 months ago. That's what happened in the yen, but look what's happened in the euro. The euro's gone from here to here. The euro-yen has gone from here to here. So whenever you're trading the euro or the euro-yen, you're trading essentially the same currency. In the yen, you're not trading at all. kind of an interesting change in the makeup of how currencies trade. A lot of reasons for that, but we're not going to talk about that today. It's an interesting subject, though. Okay, so let's bring up where's WTI? Let me bring WTI back. I apologize. This is the first time I've used this software, and not exactly rusty on it, but it is a little bit of a new endeavor, so it takes time. Okay, so naturally enough, the two responses, we're talking about two responses here on these two dates, but since they are both responses outside of the normal realm of trading markets. Normally, oil will trade on supply and demand, normally. Currencies will trade on economic statistics and their effect on interest rates. That's the old paradigm. In currencies, certainly, that paradigm is long gone. We're now trading on not through the derivation to interest rates, but on what the central banks are going to do, especially the Fed, as far as flooding the world with liquidity. So we have the two sort of parallel fundamental aspects of the market these days. Is there going to be any economic or disaster, financial disaster, if you will? What's going on in the ECB is perfectly, in Europe, is perfectly indicative of that. You know, I want to, let me pull up the chat here. Yes, thank you. I forgot to mention that. I'm a little out of practice with webinars. If anyone has any questions at any point on any topic along the way, I much prefer audience input. I don't care what the topic is. Don't ask me about Martha Rothko or Picasso, but almost any other topic I will be glad to talk about, if you'll be glad to listen. So please contribute if you have any questions that you'd like to bring up, and I'll be glad to discuss them. I think we get a much better webinar, and it's much more interesting if we do that. I also end up learning a great deal from the people in the webinar, which is something I always like as well. So again, just pop into the chat and type in any questions you have. Okay, since I asked for it, I guess I have to answer. What was the Minoan currency? I'm not sure that it had a name. And I'm not even sure the Minoans actually coined currency. Because if I remember, the first coin is from Greece. I mean, the first coin that we would call a coin was from Greece, probably around 800 BC, I think. That doesn't mean that other items were not used as currency. Absolutely they were. So whoever knows if the Minoans had an actual coined currency, please answer. The Minoans certainly had record keeping and a language and a script, I think one of which has not been deciphered yet, if I remember correctly. Yes, and there were great in 1500 BC when the Minoans were in flower in Crete. There were trading routes throughout the Eastern Mediterranean. There's a very good book on that by a woman named Jacquetta Hawkes, and it's called Dawn of the Gods, and I happen to remember it because I was looking at it during my dinner about 2 nights ago. I have it at home. So if you're interested in Minoan and Mycenaean civilizations, and they are fascinating, they're certainly the precursors to the classical Greeks in all sense. Take a look at that book. It's The Dawn of the Gods, Jacquetta Hawkes. Okay, so back to our issues.